So the first talk is going to be from Chloe, Harold and Chris Hawes from Keele University. So they're going to talk about the wonderful work they've been doing with OneNote in their undergraduate laboratories. Chloe is a chemistry lecturer at Keele University, and 3 years ago she actually introduced these OneNote laboratory portfolios into the first year chemistry lab module to sort of deal with the issues of having paper-based lab books. And Chris Hawes is a lecturer and joint program director of the chemistry undergraduate programs at Keele University, and he's come in to get involved with the pilot that was started by Chloe. So over to the two of you.
Okay, thank you. Apologies that you can't see us. We are here, but my camera's decided to go a little bit strange, but the slides are the important bit anyway. Right, yeah, so as Samantha said, I took over as module leader of CHE 10061 about 4 years ago. The assessment at the time looked like it is on this slide here. So the main component of assessment is the lab diary. It's 40% of the module, and it is a 30 credit year-long module, and it's laboratory based. In my first year of module leader, I noticed quite a few issues with that lab diary assessment. I was keen to try and improve in the future years. So that's what I'll go over now, what we did and why. So I suppose anyone that's involved in chemistry teaching in particular will be aware of a lot of the drawbacks of laboratory diaries. They're really important in STEM education. We need the students to document their experimental procedures, their data, their observations, but we also found that there was lots of limitations to them as well. The students were quite good at completing their lab diaries during lab session, but then the data analysis afterwards, they weren't always engaging with. They were expected to put it straight into their lab diaries and then submit the lab diaries at the end of the semester. And we quite often found they were coming to us pretty empty, which when it's worth so much of the module mark, that is a huge issue for us. Also, we have labs every single week, so we had no system whereby they could submit the hard copy of their lab diary every week and give them feedback. So what it meant is they weren't getting regular feedback during semester, which then hindered their opportunities to reflect as well and improve on their work. Every year we always have that student that loses the lab diary, and that's a huge issue, especially if it's well into semester. So we were keen to do something about that. And then also a lot of the data analysis that the students needed to do involved graphs and spectra that they then needed to print. Obviously it's not very environmentally friendly, and also for some students financially it's not ideal as well. So these were the issues that we were trying to address. And the most obvious solution for us was online portfolios. We decided on an online laboratory portfolio using OneNote, and I'll come on to why OneNote in a moment. The key thing was we wanted every student to have their own portfolio, and it'd be a module specific portfolio. And within that portfolio, they would upload scans or photos of their lab diary entries, because we were very keen that we still wanted students to maintain that key skill in the lab. And we weren't in a position to give them notebooks or anything, electronic notebooks or anything like that in the lab. So we still had them maintain a lab diary, and then they would upload that to that portfolio. And then there would be various templates that they would use to carry out the post-lab analysis. And you can see here in this top right-hand corner, the different folders we have for each practical. And then there's subfolders within them that make it clear where each entry should go. We also have checklists so the students can monitor their progress. It was really important that we had an introductory session at the start of semester. We found that it's ideal to embed data analysis, so we'll be using Excel and other software, and the students will then directly insert the graphs and spectra into their portfolio. And then a huge benefit for us is that we could provide them regular feedback because we had access to all these students' portfolios throughout semester. So the reason we chose OneNote, it's accessible through Office 365, which all of our students get a free copy of, so that made sense. It's not going to cost the university anything extra, which was important. It integrates with Blackboard well, which is what we use, so that was useful. A huge benefit for us is the simultaneous access for all the staff, so we can be marking different portfolios at the same time. There's also many features that are good for students with specific learning needs, so they can adjust the background of the OneNote portfolio, and it is compatible with tools like screen readers and speech to text software as well. And then there's some practical features that are useful. So you can lock pages, which is important when we have deadlines. And there's a content library where we can provide learning resources centrally, and it's just easy to access for the students. And you can distribute your pages very simply. So I get everything set up in my teacher section, and then I just distribute out those pages to the students. So just a quick note on the benefits this has had for us. So we have been evaluating it each year. The year that we still were using just lab diaries only, the average mark was 47%. The first year that we introduced the online portfolios, that rose to 60%, and then 64% last year. We are doing more in-depth analysis of this process this year. And then we also found the pass rate increased, as did the percentage of first class marks. And the really kind of positive experience for us was the feedback we got from the students. They specifically mentioned the feedback that we'd been able to provide, the fact that the templates made it clear about what they needed to do. I could go into lots of detail there, but I won't go on, because Chris now is going to talk to you about how we've then adapted it for other year groups.
Right, thanks, Chloe. So after the way that worked really well in level 4, we decided to bring this through to all of our other taught chemistry content. So we find by the time the students have finished first year, they're fully confident with using OneNote, all of the interface and this kind of thing, and we've really benefited from those sort of feedback mechanisms. So what we've started to do is we do a similar now, as of this year, 30 credit module in level 5, which is all the chemistry labs, and we basically built our OneNote portfolio in this module on the same model that we had from first year. This time what we do a little bit more is we move further away from those handwritten notes in the lab, and what's written in the lab is just the bare essentials of observations and recorded masses and things like that can only be done there in the session, and all of the rest of the interpretation and analysis is all done fully electronically, which makes it a bit more electronically searchable and sort of more useful for archiving to start getting the students ready for what they're going to be doing in their research projects. We use the same kind of checklist system and the same way of organizing our OneNote entries and sections, so the same kind of templates. We scaffold in a kind of data retrieval exercise with weekly pre-labs for the students. So this links quite nicely to being able to paste results from databases like Reaxys, which helps the students sort of build up those literature searching skills, and the same use of the content library, as Chloe already said, for first year. So this one here is just an example of one of our templated notebook entries. Okay, so you can see a couple of sort of administrative things around OneNote, but effectively everything you'd expect to find in a normal laboratory notebook is now all done fully electronically, with the occasional part which is still useful to either sort of hand annotate on the screen if the students have a touchpad, or to sort of scan in drawn figures and mechanisms and this kind of thing. So we've also recently brought this into both our level 6 and our level 7 research projects. So now we give the students a little bit more flexibility in terms of the way they organize their OneNote entries. So we template them sections, as you can see on the right-hand side there. So just 8 entries rather than giving them sort of templated individual experimental entries, because all of the projects are really quite different to each other. So we give the students who now are experts at using OneNote, we give them the freedom to kind of organize their individual sort of experimental entries as they see fit. So this is important because in our 3rd and 4th year sort of BSc and MChem projects, we have quite a diversity of project types. Okay, it's not all sort of wet bench chemistry. We run a lot of education-focused projects. We do computational chemistry and this kind of thing as well. So it needs to really be a notebook entry that works for all of those. Okay, so we give the students a bit of leeway there. Many of them do choose to reuse the templates that they had from their sort of early years, which is useful. One thing that's quite nice about OneNote is you can do direct links between sort of a contents page and all the individual experimental entries, which is useful for marking. And they also use the same place to record their sort of contemporary notes of meetings with their supervisors. A couple of other thoughts about using OneNote for research projects at the undergraduate level. So useful for project supervisors to give real-time feedback, of course. We can individually lock or individually password protect certain projects' notebooks if we have any IP requirements or ethics requirements where we're collecting data that needs to not be available to the whole teaching team. So we've had to do that a few times, which is quite straightforward. Locking for editing is one of our slight challenges. So this works in the scripted labs more easily in OneNote than it does in the more diverse kind of third and fourth year projects where people might have different sort of filing systems and structures, and so therefore it's a little bit more difficult to lock them all in one go in OneNote. But we're working on ways to fix that. And an issue that came up for us recently was, of course, as our cohort sizes grow in these modules, the storage requirements for these OneNote notebooks get larger. Okay, so every student uploading sort of high-res, sort of iPhone quality photographs of various things means that these overall sort of module documents get quite large. We've now moved to storing these on the module SharePoint spaces rather than on OneDrive, which means that we've got a sort of more of an automatic archiving system, which means that these get archived the same way that the sort of Turnitin assessments and sort of student teaching focused stuff gets automatically backed up and then removed when it needs to be removed after a period of time. This means that the staff and students both tend to make backups of their own things where they need them to carry on later on, but it means we don't have to worry quite so much about the amount of space that these are taking up. So that's a quick summary of what we've been doing at Keele with our OneNote project. So we just need to say a few quick thanks. I think we're more or less on time, so we've gone slightly over. Dave McGarvey, Mike Edwards, and Daniela Plana, big thanks, who have really helped out a lot on sort of getting this off the ground in first year. Tess, Nat, and Peter Matthews, who've helped on the sort of research side of things towards the later years of this notebook. So that's us. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much.